Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 15 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, here for the second time in league history at the wonderful New Hampshire Motor Speedway. The first time was honestly a shockingly long time ago, all the way back in 2022 in the Tour Modifieds. That race was won by none other than Justin Carey. So the first time some of these drivers here in the league will be taking to the racing surface here in Loudon for the ASRC Oval Series. Opened up back in 1990, one of the trickier tracks on the schedule, dare I say, pretty much completely flat out there, so it's going to be very hard on these drivers' brakes more than anything. You're going to have a whole lot of high speeds going into a lot of completely flat corners, which means basically a whole lot of having to manually slow the car down. You're not going to be able to really carry any speed through those corners, and that's going to be making things tricky here tonight. Of course, still following along with the real world 2003 racing schedule for the NASCAR Cup Series, and back in 2003, it was none other than Jimmy Johnson that took home the win at this track. That said, though, drivers are already starting to make their way down to the grid, so how about we take a look down there and see how things shake up for our starting lineup here this evening. Starting out here on the pole here tonight in the number 93 ASRC entry, that's going to be none other than the man who makes this all happen, Mr. Jason Gardner, starting off on, I believe, his first pole of season number 15. Starting his outside in the number 38, our current championship points leader in that Liqui entry, that's going to be none other than one of our Canadian drivers, Mr. Brandon Feeney. Back in third, a bit of a shocking sight to see here, a last-minute rookie driver sign-up. That's going to be the 40 of Rob Higgins, the driver out of Leominster, Massachusetts. This driver has a lot of history here with some of the drivers here in the league, but this is his first time ever making an appearance here in ASRC itself, so definitely interesting to see how this driver will be able to shake up against a lot of longtime pros out here in tonight's race. But he will be rolling off in position at number 3 in that number 40 car. And starting back and forth is going to be the 188 in the K9P Racing entry of Joshua Rudolph. Back in 5th, it's the Mooselander Racing 42 of Michael Sparks, followed by the Brandit 45 of Mark Kluge back in position at number 6. Sounds going to go back to the 4 of Daniel Sparks, followed by the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan back in 8th. That's the driver out of Noonan, Georgia. Back in 9th is going to be the still unsponsored 78 of Derek Murphy, followed by multi-time champion and last-minute sign-up in that number 85. That is going to be Brian Sabelski, rolling it off position number 10 of Johnny Bell in the Dirt TV number 27, driver out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, rounding out the tail end of the field here tonight. 11 cars going to be making the call to the starting grid, and it is going to be a 75-lap event here at New Hampshire. And just like that, the pace car is going to make the duck down to the safety of pit lane. Jason Gardner controls the restart, and the green flag is up in the air here at New Hampshire. Feeney with a really solid run up on the high line down into turn number 1. Gardner is not having a fun time going down through turns 1 and 2 as there's a little bit of a checkup behind him here. A little bit of a wiggle there as well. Rudolph going up to the high side in the 188. Higgins just behind in 4th. Tried to make the move work there, trying to see if he can't make something happen up on the high line here. And starting to peek the nose in there, but just not quite able to really make anything happen. Still side by side, a little bit of a wiggle down the front straightaway there for that number 40 machine, but so far so good all around the speedway is that 93 of Jason Gardner drifting up the track here just a little bit. He's going to fall all the way back to 5th, just like that. So we have a big dive down the inside. That was Daniel Sparks going down to the bottom in the STP entry. Big move down the bottom, gets around Jason Gardner, looking to try and make it around that 40 of Rob Higgins, side by side just ahead as well for Feeney and Joshua Rudolph. And Rudolph actually is our new race leader right now in that 188 machine. Not quite sure what knocked Feeney down the spot, because it seemed like he was having such a solid run up on the high line, but he's moved back a spot, now side by side with Daniel Sparks. And Daniel Sparks, a driver that has not been one we've really been able to talk about all that much this season here in that number 4 machine, having really just a string of bad luck in the past couple events, but seeing him running up in the second place, certainly quite the sight to see here. Currently pretty much right on the nose of our race leader, right on the tail of our race leader, excuse me. Rob Higgins just behind. He is trying every which lane he can. Wasn't able to get any practice before registering for tonight's event. Joined the lead quite literally about a minute before qualifying. And he is running up in position number 3 right now, right in front of Feeney. And now pulling up side by side for position number 2 with none other than Daniel Sparks here. Just like that, Daniel Sparks, big push up into turn number 1. He's going to scrape against the outside wall, going to lose the lead, going to lose the position to Rob Higgins, potentially going to lose the position to Feeney here as well, coming down the back straightaway. Little bit of damage to the right front tire. No, he's going to send it in real deep there, almost getting to the back of Rob Higgins, way up the speedway. Big move by that number 4. That is going to cost him a couple of other spots as he loses the spot to Feeney. Makes a big move down to the bottom. Will he try and make that spot back going down here into turn number 1? Big send going down into turn number 1. Drifts up the speedway just a bit. Not quite able to make the move happen before. And just behind, that's 45 of Mark Kluge, up a couple of spots here this evening. Kluge getting around Gardner. Tori Logan back there also getting around Gardner here as well. As Kluge goes all the way down to the apron, thinking there for a minute about potentially sending it 3 wide, but just not having the speed necessary to make it happen here. As we're side by side just behind for Gardner and Corey Logan. Right now, Corey Logan is the runner-up in the overall 2024 Gen 4 Championship. 290 points back from Brandon Feeney, who is currently both the points leader in the overall 2024 Championship and the points leader just in this current section of the league as well, just here for season 15. But Corey Logan kind of been just doing slow but steady, and the consistency has really been paying off for the driver of that number 24 machine. Been able to walk away with a couple top 5 finishes and getting very close to getting some podiums, and actually has pulled off a couple of podiums here in the league. We have a driver off the speedway. That's Johnny Bell around. Johnny Bell off the raceway, very slow, trying to get back up to the speed. The green flag is still out on the racetrack, though. No caution flag for the number 27. We have another driver around, and that will bring out the caution. That is Mark Kluge up into, looks like, turn number 4 for that 45 machine. And that will bring out our first caution flag of the evening here tonight. So let's take a look back, try and see what all happened here. We're going to take a look back at Johnny's incident first, and then we'll go from there. Currently, looking back, looks like side by side between Johnny and the 42 of Michael Sparks here. And oh, well, that would certainly do it. Let's see if we can't jump back maybe a little bit earlier here and see if we can't get a little bit of context leading up to this. Johnny and that 27 machine coming down the front straightaway. So far so good, and it looks like the 42 might have been scraping up against the outside wall. Sure enough, that might be where the source of the issue came from, is just the 42 getting up into the outside wall and getting stuck up there. Let's take another look back. Let's look down with the 42 here. This is coming off of turn 4, heading down the front straightaway, just stuck up on the outside wall. Multiple drivers going past him, and once he finally gets it off the wall, just kind of snaps down on him and collects the 27 of Johnny Bell. But mind you, that is not the incident that brought out the caution. The caution came from an entirely separate incident with Mark Kluge, which should be just up ahead here. And it looks like it's going to be with the number 4 of Daniel Sparks, just sending him up into turn number 3. So 2 separate incidents here for the price of 1 to bring out the caution flag here tonight. We can get one last look, maybe a onboard view with Daniel Sparks going into this incident. See what he saw going into it here. Trying to send it in real deep down into turns 3 and 4 and just not quite able to make it stick. So sure enough, that's going to be what brings out our first caution flag here this evening in the New Hampshire 100K event. Of course, all of this Gen 4 championship following the 2003 NASCAR racing season, running quarter distance races and of course 75 laps, quarter of the real life 300 race that would be going on here at this point. Lights are out on the pace car though. We're going to be going green flag racing once again. This time by is going to be Rob Higgins and Joshua Rudolph, your front row, leading the field here. We did have a couple of takers on pit road under this caution. Feeney came down, Kluge came down, Sabelski came down, Sparks, Bell, and Daniel Sparks all down on pit lane under this yellow. But the pace car is off. We're going to be trying this thing once again, and it's going to be Rob Higgins controlling the restart here. And green flag up in the air here once again at New Hampshire, and Higgins off to an amazing start. Everyone else was just kind of caught with their pants down here. Logan capitalized on it in that 24 machine though, going all the way up to second here, side by side with Rudolph, who was the leader of the outside line on that restart. Rudolph is able to battle back here just a little bit, and it looks like he's going to try and cut down to the bottom of the racetrack. 3 wide for the race lead. Why not? But it looks like it's going to be Higgins that has the advantage. Rudolph a little bit outpacing Logan down there. Of course, trying to make the bottom of the racetrack work here is very difficult just because you're having to put so much dependency on these brakes to make these cars rotate with how little banking there is on the speedway. I believe, I want to say it's about 8 or 9 degrees of banking on this racetrack, which is absolutely nothing compared to what we see even on short tracks that are shorter than this. Typically have a bit more banking than we have here tonight, but sure enough, New Hampshire always manages to put on quite the show here with these drivers. As we have maybe someone having a little bit of an issue there. That's the number 93 of Jason Gardner, who pulled it down to the bottom of the track coming out of the corner. Might have just gotten a little bit loose, but it seemed to me like it was intentional that he was pulling down there, so I'm not quite sure what the deal was there. As we have a driver off the track, that is Mark Kluge, that got real loose coming out of turn number 2, ended up down in the grass. Kept the point in the right direction though, no harm, no foul for that number 45 machine. Currently running back in the 7th position right now, down 1 position from where he qualified, so far not necessarily terrible to be down 1 spot right now. Still a long way left to go here in tonight's event, and it looks like pretty much we've had 2 different packs sort of start to separate out here. Mark Kluge leading the way from 7th on back to 11th with Sabowski at the tail end of the field, and then of course Higgins back to Murphy kind of in their own little bubble going on right now. But dare I say, the battling back here is kind of a bit closer back at the tail end of the field. Johnny Bell battling it out with Michael Sparks. Of course, those 2 were the drivers that got into each other to bring out that caution. Just behind that is the 4 of Daniel Sparks, still sending it real deep in that STP entry. Almost making contact with the back bumper of those 2 drivers, but so far so good. We are side by side for the race lead though, as Feeney once again tries to make a move on the number 40 machine of Rob Higgins, and Feeney was actually the driver that brought Higgins into the league here, the current championship points leader, inviting a driver to the league that might just be able to beat him here tonight. Once again, almost side by side, and ooh, big wiggle. 2 drivers, 3 drivers around coming out of turn number 2, and that will bring out the second caution flag of the evening, as we have a little bit of Olympic pirouettes going on here in turn number 2. Derek Murphy, Rob Higgins, and I believe that was also Joshua Rudolph that all got loose coming out of turn number 2 here. It's just a little bit extra around for that number 78 machine. So let's take a look back here, get another look down at this caution flag. Just coming out of turn number 4, big wiggle for the 78. Has to lock it down on the brakes, and fortunately no damage to anyone involved. Of course, that is going to do a number to those tires and make them not have a whole lot of speed left to work with for the remainder of this race. But all in all, definitely could be a whole lot worse for the driver of that 78 machine. Looks like most of the field is making the call to come down pit lane here. The only one that stays out is Joshua Rudolph, and Rudolph has still not hit once here in tonight's event. And it looks like Will anyone else stay out? It looks like Johnny Bell is going to stay out as well. So the entire rest of the field coming down besides those two drivers. I would imagine we're going to see the call be pretty much the same all around the field for 4 tires and fuel. That's generally what we see for most stops here. But it looks like maybe just fuel for Feeney here. And sure enough, looking around at the pit times, it looks like we have a couple of drivers here that went with just fuel. Looks like Gardner is probably the first one here that took tires under this caution. Roughly 15 to 16 second pit times for Gardner on all the way back, but Feeney, Higgins, and Logan were only in there for about 5 to 8 seconds. So I think we see a couple of drivers here trying to fuel-only strategy, see if they can make these tires work for them at least a little bit longer here in tonight's event. Of course, still a long way left to go. Only made it 20 laps out of 75, not even close to halfway yet here tonight. Lights are out on the pace car though, and our 2 front drivers are going to be on their original sets of tires here tonight. Well, maybe not. I think it's, no, it's probably just for damage. I'm looking here at Johnny, and it looks like his initial pit stop back under the first yellow was about 40 seconds. So it's possible he took tires, but I think more than likely he just had to have that damage fixed up on that 27 machine. And if that is correct, then it will be our front row, both starting on old tires here tonight. But honestly, I don't think 20 laps is going to make too terrible of a difference here. As long as they're patient with getting on the gas, don't spin the tires like we saw back at Daytona a couple seasons ago, we should be okay here. Regardless, pace car is off. Green flag up in the air very fast here tonight. And once again, the inside lane on an amazing jump to the green. And Brandon Feeney immediately going to take the race lead from these 2 drivers that are on their initial tires. So, a little bit of contact there coming out of turn number 2 between Feeney and Rudolph. Just a little bit of a nudge though, nothing too big there. Looks like Feeney really is going to have the advantage here going down into turn number 3. It's kind of a hornet's nest just behind though. Higgins up in there trying to get around that 24 of Corey Logan. He's got Mark Kluge just behind him. Johnny Bell side by side with him. We're 3 wide down the start-finish line. 3 wide heading down into turn number 1. Bell is going to back out of it, and probably wisely so. As we see a little bit of a bobble out of that number 40. A little bit of a wiggle in the middle of the corner. But it looks like he's hanging on to it a-okay up in the 4th position right now in that 40 machine. Trying to make the high line work to get around that 188 of Joshua Rudolph, who of course is still on his initial set of tires for what he started the race on here tonight. But Higgins not quite going to be able to get around him, and Rudolph drifting up the track there just a little bit. That was a little bit scary to see. But we have a battle for the lead right now between our 2. Oh, one driver way around back there. That's Daniel Sparks. An incredible save by the number 4 machine. That looked like disaster waiting to happen, but he managed to hang on to it. But up at the front of this race, we have a battle for the lead going on between our 2 main championship contenders for the 2024 season, Feeney and Logan. Logan is going to fall back here just a little bit, get Higgins back up to the front of this thing. Mark Kluge trying to follow Higgins through, but not quite able to. Logan still able to hang on to the 3rd position. Side by side down the back straightaway for that 3rd spot, though. And Corey just able to carry so much more speed, staying up on the high line, not having to break the car down quite as much. But off the corner, it's going to be Kluge in that number 45. That gets a front row seat to the pass for the lead. Rob Higgins going to take the lead from Feeney, but it looks like he might have overdriven the corner there just a little bit. Feeney might have the advantage coming down here into turns 3 and 4. But sure enough, not quite able to make the move happen. So going to single file it out here up on pretty much all the way down the field right now, as Higgins actually starts to build up a pretty decent little gap over the rest of the field. 25 laps in the books though, so a third of the way through tonight's event. Rob Higgins, rookie driver in his first ever start with the league, is currently leading this field here tonight. Just behind side by side for Kluge and Feeney. Kluge has been in practically every position on the racetrack here tonight, but he's worked his way back up to the front. Now it's just a matter of seeing if he can manage to lead some laps here this evening. Of course, bonus points getting handed out to every driver that managed to lead a lap here this evening. And we've already got a pretty diverse handful of folks that will be getting that bonus point here this evening. Currently looking down at the battle between Logan, Gardner, and Rudolph here. Gardner started up on the pole, falling back down to the 6th position now. Had a lot of speed in the early goings of things, but just really hasn't been able to capitalize on it. I'm starting to wonder here, we might see that number 93 have a little bit of a comeback in the later goings of this race. He might just be trying to save his stuff here a little bit. Of course, New Hampshire is a very demanding track on these drivers and on their cars. So, playing a little cautious, trying to save a little bit of stuff to work with at the end of this thing's arguably even more important than some of the other tracks that we typically go to here on the ASRC Oval Series calendar. Starting to single file out here just a little bit. Closest battle on the track, though, is the battle here between Rudolph, Logan, and Gardner. Battle for the 4th position, all within 0.3 of a second of each other, just about. Rudolph's going to pull it down low, try and make a move down on the bottom, but again, nowhere near close enough to make it happen. Side by side just ahead, though, that is Kluge and Feeney duking it out for the 2nd position, as Higgins has now opened up a 1-second lead over the rest of the field. Largest gap we have seen all night here tonight. I'll tell you what, he, more than anyone else right now, is probably hoping and praying that we don't have another caution here this evening. Of course, Higgins kind of coming off of the coattails of a very unfortunate race at the Charlotte Legends Oval in the SK Modified just a couple of days ago. Was set to take home what I believe would have been his first league win in that Thursday night league, but just came up a little bit short, got turned by his friend and co-worker on the final lap, and I don't even think he finished on the podium after that. So tonight might be a little bit of a redemption arc, of course, in a different league with an entirely different set of competition, but who knows? Right now he's looking like a driver that could potentially take home the checkered flag here this evening. A little bit further back here, Corey Logan trying to make the move on Feeney. Still, as we have a driver off the track, that is Daniel Sparks, who is now down on pit lane, so I think he might have just had a little bit of trouble on pit entry, but he's looking A-okay right now. The rest of the field soaring down through turns 3 and 4, catching up to that number 4 machine, so this will be putting him a lap down here this evening. Of course, there are lucky dogs if need be, so it's not entirely game over for that 4 machine of Daniel Sparks. It is possible for him to get his lap backs should the situation arise. Of course, all that's really kind of hinging on everyone making more mistakes. We may not see another caution flag fly for the remainder of tonight's event here in New Hampshire. Okay, now back to the 4th position, starting to fall back here just a little bit. As we have a battle going on for position back at the tail end of the field. Sabelski getting passed by none other than Derek Murphy. We have not talked a whole lot about that 78 driver here tonight. Coming into this evening, currently being scored back in the... Let's see here. Being scored back in... I swear I have this in my notes somewhere. Being scored back in 11th in the championship standings right now. Finished with a 2nd place back at Daytona a couple weeks ago, so has had some decent runs so far here in season number 15, but of course only been able to run part-time here, not making it out to every event. Always great to see him out there on the racetrack, though. Currently running back in the 8th position. Got around Savelski. Now the question is, will he be able to make a move on none other than Mr. Johnny Bell up there in the 7th spot here? As up ahead, Feeney once again getting into a bit of a kerfuffle side by side with Gardner, and just behind another driver we saw contending for the race lead along with Feeney not all that long ago. That's going to be the 188 of Joshua Rudolph. Currently 36 laps in the books though, so encroaching on the halfway point here in tonight's event. And right now, Higgins is looking real good up there at the front of the track. The gap has closed up just a little bit. It used to be a full second. Got up to, I think, about 1.2. Now it's down to about 0.8 of a second between himself and Mark Kluge. And I'll tell you what, this is just the most jumbled up we've seen this field be in a while. Seems a lot like we've seen practically every driver in every single spot here tonight. Up the front, the gap is very quickly closing. Mark Kluge has gotten it down to 0.6 of a second now. It honestly not a whole lot of time. I think it's possible that those tires are starting to go away on the number 40 machine. Might be pushing a little bit harder than they're able to keep up with. Let's see how the times shake out as they cross the line. That time by a 32.39 for Rob Hibbins, a 32.21 for Mark Kluge. So Kluge is definitely gaining on that 40 machine. He is starting to slow down here tonight. Corey Logan also a 32.19. So Logan was actually the fastest of our 3 drivers battling for the podium last time around the circuit. See how things change up this time around. A 32.37 for Higgins, a 32.6 for Mark Kluge, a 32.3 for Corey Logan. So again, very solid speed for the driver of that number 24 machine. We have a driver down on pit lane though. That is going to be Joshua Rudolph, the first driver to pit not under the caution flag at any point here in tonight's event. And I believe this is actually the first pit stop of that 188 machine. Though that will be putting him a lap down, but he should get the lucky dog to get back up on the lead lap here if the caution flag flies. And if not, if we see the rest of the field come down for green flag pit stops anytime soon, that should cycle him back out onto the lead lap. Next driver down going to be Michael Sparks, making a stop here as well. I believe this is actually Michael's 3rd stop. I'm pretty sure he has stopped under every yellow so far here this evening. So curious to see how it's going to play out for that number 42 machine. Daniel Sparks still down on pit lane right now, has been down there for a little while now. It actually looks like I believe Daniel Sparks in that 4 machine has packed it up and sent it back to the hauler. So that might be the end of the evening for our driver in the number 4 machine. And it's very unfortunate to see because he was up there battling for the race lead a couple of times here in tonight's event. But Rudolph and Sparks are both back out on the raceway, so that will be making it 10 drivers still in tonight's event, as we have another taker down on pit lane. That is going to be Brandon Feeney coming down here under the green flag. We'll have to see what the call is strategy-wise for this number 38. I would imagine he might take his tires this time around since we are halfway through tonight's event. Sure enough, it will be tires and fuel for Feeney this time around. Do we have any more takers coming down pit lane? Looks like the answer is no. Higgins stays out, Kluge stays out. The whole rest of the field is still going to go around here for another lap. Higgins still your race leader. Kluge just behind in that number 45. He's closed the gap down to about 0.3 of a second here. And this battle for the race lead is heating up here this evening. Higgins putting on such a good performance in his rookie debut as we have a driver off the speedway. That is Michael Sparks hard into the inside barrier down the back straightaway. Gets it back on the track. No caution going to fly here. And we'll go back and take a look back at that incident here in just a moment. Currently looking down at the battle for the race lead between Rob Higgins and Mark Kluge. Both of these drivers have pulled a full second away from the rest of the field here at this point. And both of them currently setting very similar lap times. We'll wait to see how they clock off this time around. 32.39 for Rob Higgins, 32.32 for Mark Kluge, and a 32.31 for Jason Gardner. So some very similar speeds out of our front runners here this evening, but Mark Kluge is around down into the grass, manages to save it, gets onto that little asphalt strip for the road course, but that is going to send him all the way back to the 6th position from battling for the race lead just like that. And Kluge, sure enough, is going to go ahead and bring it down to pit lane here this time by. So Higgins now back to running uncontested as our race leader here with a 1.3 second lead over Jason Gardner. Now I'm starting to wonder, is this a scheduled stop for the 45? And it's looking like yes it is. He is going to go ahead and take tires here. Oh, you have a moment. Let's take a look back at the incident that Michael Sparks had just a couple laps ago, and then we'll take a look down at the incident for Kluge. And I would imagine what we're going to see out of Kluge is going to be very similar to what we just saw here for Michael Sparks, minus the bump against the inside retaining wall. And sure enough, Kluge at least able to save it without touching the wall, but it looks like really just the exit too has been really difficult for a lot of these drivers to handle here tonight. The Kluge now one lap down from that pit stop, running back in the 9th position, so he has lost some spots to some of the other drivers that are laps down right now. And that'll leave just 6 cars on the lead lap. Brian Sabelski, the last driver up there right now. Just in front of Kluge, this is the battle that's not for position. That is the 27 of Johnny Bell, who is running in 5th here this evening. Johnny up +6 from where he qualified here tonight, having a pretty solid evening in that Dirt TV number 27. Always great to see Johnny out here on the raceway. Of course, he is one of the other administrators that helps put things on here in the ASRC Oval Series. Been here a very long time. Mostly focuses on the dirt side of things when it comes to motorsports, but always great to see him take to the asphalt ovals here with the ASRC Oval Series. And of course, right now, potentially on course to walk away with a top 5 finish if he manages to keep things going in the way they are right now. As we have Corey Logan going to be the next driver to make the call to come down pit lane here. No takers coming along down with them, as we do have 25 left to go here at New Hampshire. 25 left to go, and Higgins still putting on a very impressive display so far here this evening. Full second lead over Jason Gardner. Of course, Jason right now has a 2-second lead over the rest of the field here as well. Pretty quick stop for Corey, though. Going to be coming back out on the raceway with only an 8-second stop here, but it will still put them a lap down under the green flag here. Further behind, this is a battle for position between 2 lap cars battling it out for the Lucky Dog spot. This is Mark Kluge and Joshua Rudolph. Corey Logan actually involved in this battle as well, so these 3 drivers are all battling for the Lucky Dog right now. Feeney back on the lead lap as this rotation has worked its way around. Now it's just a matter of who can get in the prime position should the yellow flag come out, which of course is still a very big if right now. There's no guarantee that's going to happen, but if it does, it could be a major deciding factor in who manages to walk away with the checkered flag here in tonight's event. And I'll tell you what, Rudolph and Kluge both want to make sure that they are the driver in that Lucky Dog spot just to have the opportunity. Gardner going to be the next driver electing to come down from the 2nd position, so that will be bumping him back down to the tail end of the field. Rob Higgins, though, is still staying out here this evening. Last pitted on lap 18, which is the same time as Derek Murphy did. I imagine that we are going to see Jason take his set of tires here as well. Sure enough, tires and fuel will be the call for the number 93. Now we finally see our race leader of Rod Higgins come down to pit lane, though. That will cycle Derek Murphy around to the race lead, so that will be another driver picking up a bonus point here tonight for leading at least one lap here in the New Hampshire 100K. This will be Higgins' second stop here of the evening, and I'll tell you what, I mean, for a rookie driver, first ever start with the league, been putting on a very solid running here in tonight's event. Tires and fuel will be the call for him, as we have the battle between Logan, Kluge, and Rudolph still going on strong here as these drivers duke it out for the lucky dog position with 20 laps left to go. Right now, Kluge has the advantage here, but it really is anyone's game. These drivers are all within just a couple of tenths of each other, and it's side by side for Rudolph and Logan. Logan making the high line work here around that number 188 machine, but Kluge is pulling away as these two duke it out with each other. Derek Murphy now making the call to come down pit lane. That will have Johnny Bell being scored as our race leader now. Still looking down at this battle for the lucky dog position. Mert Kluge starting to pull away from it, so really Kluge is good to go unless these two decide to start cooperating and catch back up to that 45 machine. But sure enough, as we go, 18 to go, Johnny Bell will be another driver here in tonight's event that will pick up a bonus point for leading at least one lap here tonight, as Rob Higgins goes ahead and unlaps himself here this evening. So he is now finding himself as the last car on the lead lap. Still a 32-second deficit to our current race leader that's right behind him at 27 of Johnny Bell. Johnny will still have to pit here this evening. Sabelski, we might have to see pit here as well, probably here in the next couple of laps. Otherwise, everyone that needs to pit still pretty much has pitted already. Jason Gardner now battling it out with Joshua Rudolph here. Not quite for the lucky dog spot should they catch up to... Actually, no, both these drivers did unlap themselves with Murphy coming down pit lane. So we have a lot more drivers on the lead laps here. Higgins is back down a lap here, working his way back up to Johnny Bell. Looks like he might have actually had an incident last lap. Let's take a look back, see what happened to Rob Higgins real quick. A little bit loose, and sure enough, same instance we've seen time and time again coming out of turn number 2 here. So that is what caused Rob to get lapped here. But Johnny Bell's coming down to pit lane, so that will cycle a couple of these drivers back around to the lead lap, and now have Brian Sabelski being scored as our race leader. So we've got to the point where almost every single car in this field has at least led one lap here tonight. It's going to be 15 to go here at New Hampshire. The big question now is, can Sabelski make it to the end? I don't think he can. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I don't think he's going to be able to stretch it another 15 laps. But once he does come down, should that happen, Feeney will cycle around as our race leader with a 3-second lead over Kluge. Then Kluge and Gardner are duking it out right now for the 3rd position here on the speedway. We'll be battling for 2nd once Sabelski comes down. Higgins all the way back in 8th. That little slip up he had coming out of turn number 2 has really screwed him up. Of course, nothing is set in stone here tonight. There's still a long... Uh-oh, car around back in the back. That is Corey Logan down in the infield grass. Manages to get it slowed down and get it wound back up on the speedway without getting any damage, but that was a scary sight to see, especially for some of these drivers who are really hoping a caution flag does not fly here this evening. That is going to allow Rob Higgins the opportunity to get around that CZ Robotics 24, and now his sights are going to be set on the 27 of Johnny Bell here, as he tries, at least to the best of his ability, see if he can't get back up to the front of this field. Led so much of it, and then just had one little slip out of the corner. And speaking of slips out the corner, loose again for the CZ Robotics 24. Not anywhere near as close to being around as last time, but definitely quite the slide for that 24 machine. Anyway, 12 to go here in New Hampshire before we send things off here for the night. Savelski still staying out, currently rocking a 15-second lead over the rest of the field, but of course last pitted all the way back on lap number 18, so if he is trying to stay out, he is going to have to save harder than potentially any driver we've ever seen here in the league have to save before. Brandon Feeney both closing the gap to Savelski slowly but surely, but not quite really able to pull away from Jason Gardner here. Gardner is slowly closing that gap between the two of them. And as they come out turn number 4, we do have the double high fives up in the air from the flagman. Going to be 10 to go here at New Hampshire. 10 more miles before we crown a race winner for the second time in league history here at this track. And Feeney is going to push up pretty hard coming down into turns 1 and 2. That is going to allow Gardner to close the distance up to about 0.4 of a second between the two of them. Feeney still having some issues trying to recover from that slide, and suddenly Gardner, well, it looked like Gardner was catching up to him, but it looks like a little bit of a bump against the outside wall is going to throw all that progress out the window just like that. Savelski still managing to stay out on the racetrack here with 9 laps left to go. 14 seconds over the rest of the field. If he manages to save enough fuel to make it to the end, I am going to be thoroughly impressed with the driver of that number 85 machine. But I guess all things considered, we have seen stranger things happen here in the ASRC Oval Series. Gardner getting himself set up to try and make a pass on Feeney here. This could be the battle for the race lead should Savelski not have the fuel to make it to an end. So it really is for all the marbles right now. And Gardner is going to make the pass on that number 38 machine. Will he be able to hold on to the spot here for the next couple of laps? Especially as Kluge is starting to come bearing down on the two of them. Kluge is getting involved in this battle as well. Definitely not a driver to be counting out right now. Last time by 39.4 for Gardner, 31.16 for Feeney, 31.27 for Kluge. So decently similar lap times all around for these three drivers that are still duking it out. But they are all catching up to Savelski quite rapidly here. That 85 machine definitely in big time fuel saving mode right now. As we take a little bit of a zoomed out look here around the speedway, you can see everyone's gotten pretty fairly spread out with each other. Everyone on the lead lap with the exception of Derek Murphy, who's still stuck 1 lap down right now. And sure enough, Savelski is going to take the 5 to go from the flagman, still hanging on to the race lead with as much as he can at least muster up here to try his best to do. A little bit further back, Johnny Bell getting caught up to the 188 of Joshua Rudolph. Going to try and make a move on him here going down into turn number 1. And he is able to do it without all that much difficulty. Rudolph trying to hang on to it, but just does not have the tires he needs to make it happen, it seems like. But maybe not. He's going to strike back here. Trying the crossover down the back straightaway, not quite able to make it happen here. Race lead's now down to 9 seconds, which sounds like a lot, but considering it was closer to 20 just a couple laps ago, Savelski's got a lot of hanging on to do to make it to the end of this race. Rudolph pushing real hard to try and catch back up to Johnny Bell here. Sended it to the best of his ability, but all these tires are worn and torn. With 3 laps left to go, it's going to take pretty much everything they have left in them just to make it around the racetrack here. Take a look up here at our race leader of Brian Savelski. He is catching some traffic. But let's take a moment to ride on board with him. Hear just how much he is trying to save to make it to the end of this race. He is definitely really backing it down through the corners. There's going to be 2 laps left to go here for our race leader of Brian Sabelski. The gap is now down to 6 seconds, but as long as he doesn't run out of fuel here in these final 2 laps, I think Sabelski is going to be able to make it happen here tonight. Definitely having to save big time here, but he will be able to take the white flag one more lap around the New Hampshire Motor Speedway as Brandon Feeney and Mark Kluge are duking it out side by side. 8 seconds back, battling it out for the 3rd position. Kluge gets up into the outside wall. That's going to allow Feeney to clear him. Feeney is clear in the 3rd position. Will Sabelski have the fuel to make it to the end? He just has about a quarter of a mile left to go, and sure enough, Brian Sabelski, in a return to form, takes home the checkered flag here in an ASRC Oval Series race. And it's going to be the 2nd driver in the ASRC Oval Series history to take home the win at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. What a crazy fuel strategy out of that number 85 machine. Last pit on lap number 18. The next driver to have gone the longest without pitting all the way on lap 39. Most of these drivers pit as late as 53 to 54. With Sabelski, you know what? He just managed to make it save. The cautions worked out in his favor, and he is going to be taking home a win once again here in the ASRC Oval Series, and I believe his first win here in the 2024 Gen 4 Cup. It brings it down to pit lane. Will we see him burn it down here on the front straightaway? There we go. Now he's getting it going. Brian Sabelski, after quite the winless drought, finally managing to put something together here once again. Of course, he used to run here full time, now only here very sporadically. So definitely great to see him be able to put something together in one of his much rarer appearances here in the league once again. That said, race fans, don't go anywhere. We will be back here in just a moment with some words with our top 3 finishers here tonight. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Welcome back to the ASRC Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. One heck of a race here tonight. Done in the books. And it's going to be none other than Mr. Brian Sabelski that takes home the race win here tonight. Brian, how are you feeling here this evening?
I did the math right. That's how I feel.
Fair.
Oh, that was scary.
I can imagine. I mean, last time you pitted was on lap 18. The next driver after that was back on lap number 39. So you definitely had something cooking up there way different than anyone else did here tonight. Were you coming into tonight's race expecting to be on such an off strategy from everyone else?
No, I wasn't even expecting to race. Utterly Grace ended early, and I realized I had time to make it for this one. And I got no practice. Um, had no idea like how to how to get this car to go around. I had to figure it out during the race, and even then, I wasn't super fast compared to everybody else. But no, I realized coming to lap 20, I looked at the numbers and I realized I had to save 3 laps on that stint. So I was like, well, if it goes green all the way and I can save 3 laps, I can make it. So I just turned the car off going into 1 and 3 every single lap for 55 laps. And that did more than enough.
Fair enough. How much do you think you had left at the end of that?
Oh, I had maybe a lap when I got to the line, and then when I got to the line to do the burnout, I had like 3/10 of a lap. I didn't even have enough to go around to do the Polish victory lap like I normally do. So yeah, we'll chalk that up to just being short on fuel.
Fair enough. The risky strategy was there. You took it, and it managed to work out for you, getting you the first win for you, if I'm not mistaken, in the 2024 Gen 4 Championship overall. So,
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been running this since I've been running my other league on Mondays for the most part, but that wraps up about 4 weeks. So once that kicks off next season, I should be here running the full schedule. So looking forward to it.
fair enough. I mean, in 4 weeks from now, we're going to be running at Bristol. So, I guess that begs the question, do you think Bristol's a track where you're going to be able to take a win when you make your return?
I think so. I run pretty good on short tracks. I don't get caught up in other people's messes. So as long as I can keep myself clean, and Bristol's tough. Yeah, it's probably about as tough as Dover as far as staying out of trouble. Yeah, I think if I stay out of trouble, I think I'll have a good shot at least having a good finish. Maybe being back up here for an interview. I don't know if I'll say I'll win because there's some really good people in this league, and it'll be tough, but we'll give it our best shot.
Fair enough. I mean, that sounds like a solid plan to me. And of course, I know there's a lot of folks out here who are really looking forward to seeing you returning or racing on a little bit of a more full-time basis. Of course, probably not fully full-time, but it'll be great to see you back out here on the track more often.
Yeah, I've missed this league. It's a good bunch of folks. I've been enjoying the other league as well with my teammates over there. But who knows? Maybe when I come back, maybe I'll have a few more folks in tow. So we'll see.
Fair enough. Certainly a lot to be looking forward to. But of course, for tonight, I won't keep you here all evening. The microphone is all yours, Mr. Sabelski. Who you want to thank for making everything happen here tonight?
Uh, yeah. Thanks as always to the folks who've been behind me. Uh, Folks at Maconi Setup Shop, official setup shop of eNASCAR and the sponsor of this week's race at Pocono. Be sure to check that out. SM Racing, who sponsor this league, who also sponsor me and to put together this wonderful button box I use to turn the car off in the corners and keep an eye on my fuel. So great product, really happy with it. Sure, check them out too. Garrett and Jeremy and whole team over there are awesome people. Thanks to everyone hanging out on Twitch. Good to see y'all. Appreciate y'all being here. I just got back from vacation, so this is my first stream back from then. Um, yeah, good way to end the night after getting caught up in someone else's mess in the first race of the night for me. Um, yeah, that's about it for now. Yeah, we'll I won't be. I don't think I'll be here next week unless we get another early race in. If we do, I'll be here to run that.
Good deal. I mean, of course, I certainly don't want you to crash out, but it would be great to
I
see
don't
you
want to
next
crash
week.
out. I don't want to crash out either. I'm trying to hold on to the top 20 in points. So I've had a bad enough. I had a rough enough middle of the season anyway. So yeah, thanks of course Aiden for doing the broadcasting, Johnny and Jason, and everyone at ASRC for putting the league together, and everyone who came out tonight. It's good to race y'all. Thanks for giving me room and keeping it clean.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight, and I look forward to ever so slightly maybe seeing you next week.
Yep. Catch you later.
And finishing back in position number 2, Mr. Jason Gardner. You started out on the pole. You found yourself in last at some point. I don't know what happened there, but somehow or another you managed to work your way all the way back up onto the podium. How are you feeling here this evening? Oh, well, maybe not.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize I was muted. Whoops. I feel a little exhausted after that race. Like, like I knew this. Usually, flat tracks are usually one groove, but at the very start of the race, I was seeing how many people were actually be racing multiple grooves and actually staying up there. That's yeah. I kind of started holding back a little bit until things actually got straightened out. That's probably why I went all the way to the back.
Fair enough. I mean, one way or another, you managed to make it work. You made a heck of a comeback to get all the way back up on the podium. I guess the big question is what might have had to have gone different here tonight for you to be taking home the checkered flag?
Uh, to be honest, I might have actually managed to catch Brian if I would have went into the pits just bit, a little bit earlier, because I kind of stayed up there with Rob, hoping for a yellow. But when I realized one was going to come out, that's when I went in. But by then, I lost all that time.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing I probably could have done differently. But even then, it would probably have been a stretch to even catch Brian.
Fair enough. I mean, still a heck of a show you put on here tonight. Another podium is nothing to scoff at. All things considered, really pretty solid running you've had so far all here in season number 15. And that begs the question, next week we make our return to Pocono for the second time here this season. Do you think that's a track where you're going to be having success at?
Hopefully, well, because this Pocono is going to be completely different from the one that we raced earlier in the season. The one we raced earlier, that was the legacy one. So we're going to be racing the the other the newer scan, which yeah, it is the same track. It's still triangle, but it's definitely going to race much differently. So I'm looking forward to it.
Fair enough. I mean, it sounds to me like it's going to be a pretty solid time. The Tricky Triangle has always put on some pretty solid racing here in the ASRC Oval Series, so definitely something to be looking forward to. Of course, for tonight, you managed to walk away with the podium finish. That is certainly something to celebrate. And before I let you go for this evening, who do you want to thank for making everything happen for you here tonight?
Like thank you for broadcasting, and because it's fun to actually go back and watch the races on my free time. And I also like to thank SM Racing. They are sponsored the series, and they make some really nice button boxes. I also recommend get one if you're in the market for one. And last but not least, I'd like to thank everybody who actually came out tonight, because without them, without you, without everybody, none of this would be possible.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium here this evening, and I look forward to seeing what you can do at Pocono next week.
Looking forward for next week as well.
And finishing back in position number 3, our pretty undisputed points leader right now, continues to be our pretty undisputed points leader, but walking away with another podium here tonight. Brandon, how are you feeling?
Pretty good. Did get a lot of practice, so I was just kind of having fun. Brought a new guy over the league from another league, and we were shooting the crap while we were driving, and we made a lot of mistakes while we were doing it. But once again, had a bunch of fun.
Well, at the end of the day, I reckon that's half the battle. We are driving fake cars on fake tracks over the internet, so fun should be the focus over everything else.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that's we like to be competitive when we do this, and I guess the juice is going. We were driving these exact cars at the Daytona Raceway over on our other league, and then we jumped over to this one. So me and Rob definitely struggled with the transition, but we led a few laps, got a couple extra bonus points, so it should be a good points day.
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, everyone's going to be pretty much picking up the bonus point for leading a lap here tonight. That's probably the most unique drivers leading a lap we've seen so far this season, but definitely a good points day. And heading in next week over to Pocono, how are you feeling? Is that a track that you think you might take another podium finish at?
Normally I say no, but I'm kind of on a streak where I've been on the podium a bunch of times, even being sideways the one time. But yeah, it's just one of those things that we'll see how the race plays out. If it turns into a field mileage race, I'm good at that. I didn't think I screwed up by not taking tires when we did the first pit stops and stuff like that. So I needed tires. I didn't even need fuel. I needed tires because it was getting bad. But I wanted to try to beat the rush down there, get the fresh tires, try to get out there and hope for caution. I was on the lead lap to use my second set.
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely. I don't think anyone really expected tonight's race to go the way it did, but still a podium finish for you. And now heading into the final couple of races here this season. Of course, Pocono next week. But then we have Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, Michigan, and Bristol. How do you feel is that, just as a general selection of tracks, do you think that's going to be able to let you hold on to your championship lead?
Michigan might be okay, but the rest of them sound like it's going to be a bad time.
Fair enough. I mean, there isn't any optimism there, but I'm sure there are folks out there rooting for you, and you do have a pretty nice little buffer to work with heading into these events, so who knows what might happen.
Right. Road courses, especially with these cars, is all about keeping them on track. If you can do that, you'll finish a good race. Mind you, I said that about Sonoma I wasn't going to be good there, and I think I podiumed at Sonoma too. So we'll see. Watkins Glen is a track I kind of know from playing race games for most of my life, and we'll see what we got.
Fair enough. That seems like a solid plan to me. For now, though, I won't let you keep you here all night. I know you got stuff to do in real life race car land as well. So, for now, the microphone is all yours, Mr. Feeney. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
I want to thank you for broadcasting this, the ASRC guys for having us out, SM Racing Products for putting on the prizes and stuff like that, sponsoring the league. And then last of all, you guys got to come check out the podcast. We do one every Friday. We got Ladies of Motorsports Months, and we're running a contest. One of 5 ladies is going to walk away with a prize pool from the hats we're selling, the pink and black hats, for the most viewership. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time, and hopefully you come check it all out.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out here tonight. Congratulations on the podium finish, and I look forward to seeing you next week at Pocono.
See you, buddy.
And you hear it here first, folks. Your top 3 finishers here tonight: Brian Zabelski, Jason Gardner, Brandon Feeney. But of course, those weren't the only drivers out here in tonight's event. So how about we take a look down at our unofficial race results, see how things shook out for the rest of the field. Back and forth here tonight, we had the 45 of Mr. Mark Kluge for the K9V Racing entry. Or actually, one of them back in the 4th position. Mark in that brand at number 45. Then it's going to be the 27 of Johnny Bell in the Dirt TV entry, rounding out the 5th position here tonight. Then it's going to be the K9P 188 of Joshua Rudolph. That brings it home back in 6th. Rookie driver here, Rob Higgins, led plenty of laps here tonight in that 40 machine, but unfortunately wasn't quite lucky with the strategy calls. Had a little bit of an issue on one of the corners. He's going to bring it home back in position number 7. Back in 8th, the CZ Robotics 24. That's going to be Corey Logan running back in P8, followed by Michael Sparks in the 42, back in 9th. Derek Murphy rounding out the 10th position here this evening is the first car a lap down. That's going to be Daniel Sparks in the number 4, rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening. That said, that's just about all we got here from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Of course, a big thank you to everyone for tuning in here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you same day, same time next week over at the Pocono Raceway for the Pocono 125. Bound to be one heck of a race. Of course, same day, same time, Monday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. And for those of you interested in joining the league, of course, be sure to check out the league social media, the league website. We're always looking for new drivers, and really the only requirement is to be a clean and respectful driver. So if you want to come hop in and do some Gen 4 racing action, these folks are always ready and excited to have y'all. For now, though, thank you all for tuning in to tonight's stream, and we look forward to seeing y'all